I stared at the ornate brass key in my trembling hands, its intricate scrollwork catching the afternoon light filtering through Rose's kitchen window. 3 days had passed since the funeral, and I still couldn't bring myself to believe she was really gone. The key had been tucked beneath Rose's jewelry box lining, wrapped in tissue paper like a secret she'd been saving for me. All my life, she'd warned me about the basement. "Don't you dare go down there, Sarah," she'd say, whenever my childhood curiosity got the better of me. "It's nothing but a hazard zone. Floods every winter." But Rose was gone now, and the house was mine, along with all her secrets. The basement door stood at the end of the hallway like a sentinel, its dark wood worn smooth by decades of Rose's hands. The lock turned easily, as if it had been waiting for this moment. Cool air rushed up to meet me, carrying scents of old leather and something else I couldn't identify. Something that made my museum curator instincts prick with unease. I flicked the light switch and fluorescent bulbs hummed to life, revealing wooden stairs descending into what should have been a flooded mess. Instead, I found myself staring at 17 vintage suitcases lined up along the walls, like soldiers awaiting inspection. The basement was bone dry. It had probably never flooded in its life. My hands shook as I approached the nearest case. Burgundy leather with brass corners that looked like it belonged in the 1940s. The latch clicked open with a sound that seemed to echo through the silence. Inside, nestled in faded tissue paper, lay a man's wallet, a gold wedding ring, and a Polaroid photograph. The photo showed a middle-aged man with kind eyes sitting in what looked like a restaurant, raising a coffee cup toward the camera. He was smiling, unguarded, as if he trusted whoever held the camera. The image was dated March 15th, 1987. James Harold, according to the driver's license in the wallet. The name hit me like a physical blow. James Harold. The traveling salesman who disappeared without a trace in 1987, leaving behind a wife and 2 young children. I remembered him from a missing persons exhibit I'd helped curate at the Salem Historical Society. His case had never been solved. The wedding ring bore an inscription in Rose's familiar handwriting. "To my darling Jim, forever yours, Margaret." But it wasn't Margaret's handwriting. It was Rose's. My legs felt unsteady as I moved to the second suitcase. Brown leather purse with a gold clasp. Inside, lipstick still bright red after decades, car keys on a chain shaped like a butterfly, and a driver's license belonging to Linda Chen, dated 1992. Another Polaroid showed a young woman with dark hair laughing at something off camera, ice cream cone in hand, yellow sundress bright against a summer day. Linda Chen vanished from a Route 1 rest stop in 1992. Car found in the parking lot, belongings untouched, but she was never seen again. The third suitcase contained Robert Martinez's belongings from 1995. The fourth held Patricia Williams's things from 1998. Each case told the same story. Personal identification, a meaningful piece of jewelry, and a photograph capturing someone's final moments of happiness. Each name belonged to someone who had disappeared without explanation. Each photograph showed them relaxed, trusting, unaware they were looking at their killer's camera. I sank onto the concrete floor, surrounded by evidence of something I couldn't yet name. Rose's handwriting was on small tags attached to each suitcase, noting dates and locations in the same careful script that had written my birthday cards and grocery lists for 16 years. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like trapped insects, casting harsh shadows that made the suitcases look like tombstones. The basement felt smaller suddenly, the walls pressing in as understanding settled over me like a suffocating blanket. Rose hadn't just hidden someone else's crimes. These were her trophies. Something was very wrong in this house. and I was about to discover just how deep the horror went. My phone rang upstairs, the sound echoing through the floorboards. I climbed the stairs on legs that barely supported me, my mind reeling with questions I wasn't sure I wanted answered. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Hello? My voice came out barely above a whisper. Sarah? The voice was male, older, with a rasp that suggested years of cigarettes. I hope you're settling in well at Rose's place. My heart hammered against my ribs. Who is this? A friend of your grandmother's. We worked together for many years. A pause filled with the sound of his breathing. I understand you've been exploring the house, getting acquainted with Rose's collection. He knew. Somehow, he knew I'd been in the basement. I don't know what you were talking about. But even as I said it, I was looking toward the basement door, which I'd left open. Had he been watching the house? Was he watching now? Come now, Sarah. Rose spoke of you often. How proud she was of your work at the museum, your attention to detail, your appreciation for preservation. The way he said that last word made my skin crawl. She always said you'd understand the importance of continuing the family business. The line went dead. I stood in Rose's kitchen, staring at the basement door. The house felt different now, as if the walls themselves were keeping secrets. Every creak of the old wooden floors, every whisper of wind through the windows seemed to carry a threat. I should have left then. Should have grabbed my keys and driven straight to the police station. Instead, I went back downstairs. I needed to understand the scope of what Rose had done. My museum training kicked in. Document everything, catalog each piece, approach this like the historical researcher I was. Maybe if I could organize the information, make sense of the timeline, I could find a way to make this right. I brought down my laptop, camera, and notebook. The familiar routine of documentation helped steady my nerves as I photographed each suitcase and its contents. The dates spanned from 1972 to 2019, nearly 50 years of systematic killing. The victims were all travelers, people passing through Salem or nearby towns. Salesmen, tourists, hitchhikers. People whose disappearances might not be immediately connected to the area, people who wouldn't be missed right away. Each victim had been photographed in what appeared to be their final moments. The photos showed them relaxed, unguarded, often eating or drinking something. They looked comfortable, as if they trusted whoever was behind the camera, as if they trusted Rose. In the final suitcase, I found something that made my blood freeze. A manila folder containing Rose's handwritten notes, detailing each victim's selection, capture, and disposal. Her writing was clinical, methodical, like a scientist documenting experiments. Subject shows typical trust patterns. Read one entry from 1994. Responded well to maternal approach. Partnership with M proving efficient for disposal logistics. M, the caller, had mentioned working with Rose. There was a partner. I found Rose's address book in a filing cabinet tucked behind the suitcases. The entries were coded, but I recognized the pattern from my archival work. Names were listed alongside dates and locations. Some entries had notations like legacy planning and succession management. The bank statements in the same cabinet told another story. Regular deposits listed as estate settlements had been flowing into Rose's accounts for decades. My college education, my comfortable childhood, the house I'd inherited, all of it funded by blood money. Everything I thought I knew about my family was built on a foundation of death. The phone rang again as I sat surrounded by evidence. This time, I was ready. "You're learning quickly," the voice said. "Rose always said you were bright, methodical, perfect for the work. I'm not doing anything for you." My voice was stronger now, fueled by anger and disgust. "Oh, but you are. You see, Sarah, this isn't a choice. This is an inheritance. Rose spent years preparing you, funding your education, making sure you'd have the skills needed to continue her work. You think it's a coincidence she encouraged your interest in historical preservation? In cataloging and documentation? I thought about all the times Rose had praised my organizational skills, my attention to detail. The way she'd beam when I'd tell her about my latest museum project. Had it all been grooming? You're insane. I'm practical. This network has operated successfully for over 50 years across multiple families. We take care of our own, Sarah. Rose lived comfortably her entire life because she understood the value of our work. Murder isn't work, it's population control. We remove people who won't be missed. And in return, we live well. Rose's house, your education, the comfortable life she provided. All funded by our operations. Every birthday gift, every Christmas present, every dollar that had paid for my college tuition was connected to someone's death. What do you want from me? To continue the tradition. Rose is gone, but her territory needs management. The collection needs maintaining. You have all the skills required, and if I refuse, then you become part of the collection. The line went dead again. I sat in the basement surrounded by the evidence of Rose's crimes, understanding finally that I wasn't just a granddaughter who'd inherited a house. I was either a potential recruit who'd been groomed since childhood, or a future victim who knew too much. That's when I realized I needed to find out just how trapped I really was. I started looking for surveillance equipment. The cameras weren't hard to find once I knew what to look for. Small, professional-grade devices hidden throughout the house. Behind picture frames in the living room, tucked under kitchen cabinets, positioned in my childhood bedroom to watch the bed where I'd been sleeping for 3 days. They'd been watching me since I'd arrived, watching me discover the basement, watching me catalog the evidence, watching me piece together the truth about Rose. My car had a tracking device attached to the undercarriage. My phone calls were being monitored. That explained why the line had cut out when I'd tried to call 911 earlier. I was completely trapped. That's when I found the new additions to Rose's collection. 3 fresh suitcases that hadn't been there that morning. 3 new sets of personal belongings. 3 new photographs. The most recent was dated just 2 weeks ago. After Rose's death, but before her funeral. Someone had been in the house while I slept, adding to the collection. The partner had keys, had access, had been treating Rose's house as his own storage facility. He'd been coming and going as he pleased, watching me, waiting to see if I'd accept my role in the family business, or if I'd need to be eliminated. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I'd been alone in this house for 3 days, but I'd never actually been alone. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with a kitchen knife in my lap, watching the shadows and waiting. Every sound made me jump. The house settling, the wind through the trees, the old pipes creaking in the walls. The darkness outside the windows seemed alive with threats. At 3 a.m., I heard footsteps on the front porch. The doorknob turned slowly, and I realized he'd been testing me all along, seeing if I'd run, if I'd call for help, if I'd accept what Rose had trained me for. The door opened, and he walked in like he owned the place. He was older than I'd expected, maybe 70, with thin gray hair and the kind of face that looked like it had never smiled genuinely. He wore a dark coat and carried a leather briefcase that probably contained supplies for whatever he'd planned for me. "Hello, Sarah." His voice was the same one from the phone calls, but hearing it in person made my skin crawl. "I see you've been doing your homework." I gripped the knife tighter, feeling the weight of it in my sweaty palm. "Stay away from me." Now that's not very hospitable. "Rose raised you better than that." He set his briefcase down and looked around the living room like he was inspecting his property. "This is a beautiful house. Rose took excellent care of it. I hope you will do the same. I'm not doing anything for you." "Oh, but you are." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a manila folder thick with documents. I have contracts here that will make you a full partner in our operation. Rose's territory, her methods, her contacts, all transferred to you. In return, you'll receive the same financial benefits she enjoyed for 50 years. And if I refuse, then you become inventory. He said it so matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. I've already prepared the accident scenario. A gas leak in the basement, a tragic explosion. The house burns down with you inside. Very sad, but these old houses are fire traps. I thought about the gas line I'd noticed running through the basement. He'd already set it up. You have 10 minutes to decide, he continued, settling into Rose's favorite armchair like this was a social visit. I have other appointments tonight. The network doesn't run itself. The network... This wasn't just Rose and her partner. This was something much larger, more systematic than I'd imagined. Rose spoke of you constantly, he said, checking his watch. How proud she was of your work, your intelligence, your potential. She saw so much of herself in you. Rose was a monster. Rose was practical. She understood that some people's lives have value and others don't. The people in our collection were drifters, Sarah. Addicts, criminals, people with no families, no contributions to society. We simply recycled them into something useful. The casual way he talked about murder made me want to vomit. But I forced myself to stay calm, to think like the researcher I was trained to be. I needed him to believe I was considering his offer. 5 minutes, he said. I looked toward the basement door, thinking about all those suitcases, all those photographs, all those lives that had been reduced to trophies. I thought about the victims' families, the people who'd spent years wondering what happened to their loved ones. I thought about Rose, who'd raised me with genuine love while simultaneously training me to become a killer. And I made my choice. Okay, I said, setting down the knife. I'll do it. His face relaxed into what might have been relief. Excellent. Rose said you were smart. I stood up slowly, my hands raised in surrender. Just tell me what I need to know. He reached for his briefcase to pull out the contracts, and that's when I grabbed the heavy glass vase from the coffee table and brought it down on his head as hard as I could. He crumpled to the floor, blood spreading across Rose's Persian rug like spilled wine. I didn't wait to see if he was dead. I grabbed my keys and the box of evidence I'd prepared earlier, then ran for the car. My hands shook so badly I could barely start the engine, but adrenaline carried me through the empty streets of Salem toward the police station. The nightmare was finally over. Or so I thought. The investigation that followed made national news. The network he'd described was real and extensive, spanning 6 states and involving dozens of participants across multiple generations. Rose's collection was just one cache among many. They found him unconscious in Rose's living room, along with evidence of his planned gas explosion. His briefcase contained contracts for 3 other succession candidates, people like me who'd been groomed to take over family territories. The DNA evidence from the personal items in the suitcases helped solve hundreds of missing person cases. Families who had spent decades wondering what happened to their loved ones finally had answers. Rose's house was demolished after the investigation concluded. I couldn't bear the thought of anyone else living there, and I certainly couldn't keep it myself. I moved across the country, changed my name, and started over. I still work as a museum curator, but I specialize in different types of preservation now. I help families of missing persons create memorial exhibits, turning tragedy into remembrance. Sometimes I wonder if Rose's love for me was real or just part of her recruitment strategy. I think it was both. People are complicated that way. You can genuinely love someone while simultaneously destroying them. I kept one photograph from Rose's collection. Not of a victim, but of Rose herself as a young woman, before she became what she became. She looks innocent, hopeful, like someone who might have made different choices under different circumstances. The inheritance Rose left me wasn't money or property. It was a choice. The choice to continue a cycle of violence or to break it, regardless of the cost. I chose to break it, but I'll never forget that for a moment, sitting in that living room with his contracts spread out before me, I understood exactly why Rose had made the choices she did. That's the most terrifying part of this whole story. Not that monsters exist, but that they can teach us to love them anyway. The network was dismantled, the participants arrested, the victims finally given the dignity of proper burial. But late at night, when I'm alone in my new apartment 3,000 miles away, I sometimes catch myself organizing things the way Rose taught me. Methodical, precise, with careful attention to detail. I wonder if that's how it started for her too. Small habits, innocent skills, gradually twisted into something darker. I wonder if the choice I made in that living room was really mine, or if it was just another part of Rose's plan, training me to be the kind of person who would do the right thing when the moment came, making sure her legacy would be justice rather than continuation. Maybe that's the real inheritance she left me. Not the house, not the money, not the invitation to join a family business built on death. Maybe she left me the strength to choose differently. I'll never know for certain. Rose took her true intentions to the grave. But every morning when I wake up in my new life, I make the choice again. To preserve life instead of ending it. To help families find closure instead of creating more mysteries. To use the skills Rose taught me for healing instead of harm. The cycle is broken. The collection is closed. The basement is buried under rubble and concrete. And I am finally, truly free.